Welcome back, Sainers, to another edition of Saints TV Live. As you might, our regular guests might notice that we've got a different face on the right side of the screen. It's Jake, the Godfather, the creator of Saints TV. Jake, how you doing today?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. A bit of a late inclusion there. Sarah would have been great to have her on, but couldn't make it. But yeah, good to join you on this powerhouse of a show that you're running this year.
Well, I'm not sure about Powerhouse, but thank you for your kind words. Make viewers make sure to show some love for Jake. Just a reminder also to check out Saints TV weekly. Jake's video, of course, brilliant as always, released yesterday. The podcast, which has that been released on YouTube yet, Jake?
Yep. So the regular podcast that's out on YouTube and Spotify and all over the place, and then the special one will be hopefully tomorrow. So stay tuned for that.
Yep. Can you give us any insight into the special podcast that you've got planned?
Oh, well, yeah, we got obviously we posted the reel before, so I think most people know, but we got Jane Bunn in, who's the weather reporter for Channel 7 and meteorologist. So she's a mad sainer. And yeah, she was very good value, very funny, very informative. And yeah, it's a good hour-long episode. So hopefully people enjoy it when it's released.
Interesting pick up there. I didn't actually realize that Jane Bunn was a sainer before. You got her on the podcast, so I'm sure she'll, have some interesting insights as to what it's like as a Saints fan and being a Saints fan in the media as well. Obviously remember to check out the Saints TV website. The Jane Bunn special podcast released at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And the Bentley Social, is that happening on Saturday, Jake?
Yep. So hopefully we'll get a big turnout, 1 o'clock. Or even get in earlier. It's a good Saturday. We rarely get a nice 2 o'clock slot on a Saturday. So get there at 12, 1 o'clock, have some lunch. Myself, Joycey and Marshy will be there, hopefully with a big crew of red, white and black. And hopefully get a win against the Gold Coast. It's a big game, so hopefully we'll get a big crowd.
Yep. And we'll look into, the Gold Coast game. We'll preview that all in due course. But did you want to talk a bit, Jake, about obviously you've done the podcast, but just to recap what your general thoughts were about the game on Saturday night?
Yeah, I guess my general thoughts after the game was massive disappointment, but not in the same way as the previous week against the Eagles, where that was disappointment because we didn't come to play for more than half a game and we really got out of jail. My disappointment after this game was more with the boys. They would have been disappointed as well because we got so close despite so many things going wrong in the game, whether it was hitting the top of a goal post or the ball bouncing literally on the goal line or the 3 injuries that we got before halftime. There was so much that went wrong, but the one thing we couldn't question was the desire, I guess the attitude of the boys. And that's always in question is, are they really switched on today? And I watched the replay again and you look at it and you go, they were switched on for the whole game. They couldn't have done much more, and you can walk away from a game like that and feel like if they take that in, week out, that we'll win more games than we lose, which is a good sign at this point of the year.
Yep. I feel like, someone must have walked under a ladder or a black cat must have crossed their path or something before the game to have 3 injuries in the first quarter. Max King subbed out with the shoulder injury. Obviously, season over for him, unfortunately. Subbed out within 30 seconds. Seb Ross down with a hamstring inside a couple of minutes. And then Zane Cordy knocked out by Stephen May's knee at the end of the first quarter. That's just, what more can you ask for from a team that, fought hard? Goal accuracy was a bit of an issue, seemed like the Saints of old. But, you could also make the argument that Melbourne got a bit lucky considering, they've had their goal accuracy woes over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and to be fair, like if you're going to lose 3 players before halftime, Melbourne's one of the worst teams that you can come up against to be in that position because they like to run. They're one of the fittest teams going around. That was their big thing when they won their flag was just you have to gut run against Melbourne, against that midfield and like their wings, Langdon and all these guys, very, very good players in their own right. So to come up against them and then cop that on top was just a double whammy. If that was a team that, say Carlton, they just bomb it long to their tools, you probably don't need to run as much. But with Melbourne, it's just back and forth constantly. So I'm curious how many Ks our boys did in the end. Probably would have clocked some record Ks in there.
Yeah, I know AFL Central, the Instagram account, has a Tom Scully medal. Obviously Tom Scully was a player that covered many Ks in his career, so it'd be interesting to see if AFL Central's posted about our boys at all. But yeah, could look into that. The Telstra tracker stats. Anyone watching, late in the fourth quarter, if they remember what the Ks were, feel free to comment. That might be asking a bit too much though to remember the Ks each person covered. Something that wasn't so pleasing. Obviously, we saw the heart and the effort the boys put in. We were a bit predictable going inside forward 50, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of. I thought for patches we were. But for the majority of the game, I thought we tried different things, and the end result was the same, which was annoying because it was May and Lever. But we tried different entries. Sometimes we went top of the goal square. Sometimes we tried to go that 30 meters out, hoping for a contest and then a rove. Other times we tried to go for the leads, and a few times it worked. Like Billings kicked his goal from crouch, hitting him up from about 40 out. Jack Steele kicked his goal from being hit up about 45 out. So there were times where we got it right. But at the same time, when you're deep into the third and fourth and you've got no bench, I guess just mentally you just go long, you just can't, you're knackered, So there's so much, I guess, psychologically that would have been affecting the boys too. I thought we were okay. Like Caminiti got his hands to so many. Like, have you seen the replay? Like I watched it back in the first 3 or 4, I guess, contests in the forward line. He should have marked him, So I don't know. I feel like I've been a little bit harsh there because it's a forward line that's consisting of, an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old who's off a a very short preseason. I don't know what else we could have really done there.
Yeah. It was disappointing at the game. I was particularly vocal, and apologies to the people, the young kids sitting around me who, there was definitely some coarse language involved, but, the boys did really try. And even at the first, when we didn't have Max King at the beginning of the season, a lot of people were talking about our unpredictability inside forward 50. We were still, I noticed there wasn't much change between what we did in the first 4 rounds of the year and what we did, in that game on the weekend, Bath, the first 30 seconds where we kicked it to King, tried to kick him just outside the forward 50. There was a lot of bombing, as you will, and it seemed to work in the first 4 rounds of the year. I mean, we were 4-0. So is that something that you're worried about or not worried about moving forward?
Nah, like I think that's what people forget is that, it looks bad when you're losing bombing, but when you're winning, it doesn't really matter. And you see a lot of teams do it. Melbourne, like a lot of the top teams, they bomb, but it just comes off because they got good structure ahead of the footy and they've got the tools that can compete consistently and bring it to ground at the very least. If they're not marking it, it goes to ground. And I actually think we missed Higo big time in this game. I think he was a bigger loss than we probably expected going into it because we had Billings come in, so it was okay. But there were so many ground balls that I just don't think we capitalized on. So as much as May and Lever dominated in the air, that we did have moments at ground level where Butler wasn't really at his roving best and Higo wasn't there and Billings isn't really that clean rover, So I think Higo being in this week will make a massive difference at that ground ball sort of game.
Yeah, it does provide a bit of that X factor. Pick the ball off the ground, good crumbing ability. Just seems to pull goals out of his gluteus maximus sometimes, Jack Higgins. And that's definitely what we needed when we struggled with accuracy, but struggled to find that on Saturday night. I'd like to get your opinion, Jake. Wayne reckons that we dominated and lost that. Well, obviously we lost that game, but he reckons we dominated. I don't agree with the fact that we dominated per se. We were definitely in the game for large chunks. I wouldn't use the word dominated though. Is that how you see? How do you see it?
I think if you took out the scoreboard and you got 100 people in a room to watch the game and guess who won, I reckon 70% of that room, 70 people out of the 100 would have thought St Kilda had won that game based on general play. I think that's fair. That's the best way I could summarize that, is that if you watched it as a neutral, take the scoreboard out, we looked like the team winning. We looked like the better team. Yep. Whether that's dominating or not, I'm not sure, but I felt like we were comfortably, a little bit better than Melbourne most of the night.
Yeah. But personally, I wouldn't use the word dominating in that sense. I'd say, probably closer to 90%. But I do agree with your opinion in that, it's a good analogy you've made, putting people in a room and, without them counting or knowing the scores, that I think a lot of people would agree with you in that we're probably the better team for, well, that's not the words you use, but we probably were the better team for 70% of the game, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, saying us what you think of the term dominating, and whether we dominated that game or whether we were just in control for, a good chunk of the game. And we have, it's been a while, Jake, since we've had a fan cam on this show. Not sure if you've been watching every week.
Yeah, we don't plug it very much, do we?
No, but just, you're in as a special guest, so we thought, why not try something? And it looks like we've got a fan cam. So am I pronouncing that right? How you going, mate?
Oh, it's Marcus. But hey, how you going? Hey, Joe. How you going, mate?
Hey, Marcus. I'm good. How are you?
Good, mate. Good, thank you. Yeah, I put a comment in before. I feel like the effort for the season's finally been there. Not many supporters, I guess, knew how long we'd last during the season. It's been very up and down during the season, but I feel like recently I've started noticing, as my comments stated, that our forward entries inside 50 and from the midfield haven't been as good as they could be. I feel like they've been predictable, especially with the intercepting defender example, Stephen May. You only have to look that far into it, and I feel like missed opportunities for goals, especially in a game as close as on the weekend where we were in it most of the game. I feel like it's a bit sad that we didn't capitalize, but I hope going forward Ross Lyon has a plan at the end of the season. As much as we love the players, I feel like when we sacked Brett Ratton and we got Ross Lyon in, that trade period was a wasted opportunity to go further. And I feel like Ross Lyon really needs to get on top of that with whoever else he needs to speak to, his talent acquisition, and really work on that to get us going further forward in finals.
I'm sure that'll be a big focus in the off season. Because Rossi came in after the trade period, didn't he, Jordan?
Yep.
So I reckon he's got a big list. He's got some lines through players, and he's got some question marks on other players, and they got 5-6 weeks now to really, stake their claim. Like the Ronnie Burnses, these guys, they're getting dropped. They come in, they do a good job, but they got to really sustain it to prove to Ross that they're serious about playing footy.
Classic footy. How funny is it with coaches being under fire, getting sacked, and we play them the same week? How many times has that happened recently?
Or just milestone games as well. Buddies, Cochin. There's been a few,
Or the Eagles getting smacked by 171 the week before we played them.
Yep.
Well, I went to that game, and it was horrendous. I was molding. I was stressing out, just seeing comical errors, and then we put it up against good teams. It's just inconsistent. It's tough to watch.
Well, I reckon. Do you feel like we've turned the corner a little bit based on the D's game, just the way we applied ourselves, or are you still a bit worried about the rest of the year?
I mean, we had just as many outs as Melbourne did, with I think it was Bailey Fritsch and Clary out.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had just as many that hurt us. So I mean, we're in it the whole game. It's just it's a 4-quarter game, of course, but I feel like from start to finish, you have to do everything right. And I feel like we need to not get away from that as a football club. And yeah, we'll be just as efficient as teams like Collingwood and Port Adelaide this season going forward if we can do that.
Yeah, Marcus, I'd like to get your opinion. You mentioned that Ross Lyons, you reckon he's got a big list at the end of the year for targets. Rather than naming specific players, what do you reckon the specific needs are for the Saints? What would you like to see?
Feels like Rowan Marshall, we'll start with him. I feel like in the ruck, he's an excellent ruck, but you can't have Mitch Toe Owens, who's all over the ground doing the ruck work, or there's other players that sometimes go in as well. Like you can't have that happening. Mitch Toe Owens is a goal sneak. I've noticed he's almost like Jack Higgins, really. He's a good player and he shouldn't be being utilised in the ruck. So I think potentially another ruckman. Maybe maybe more defenders as well, like to assist, all our good defenders to keep them going, because if they get injured, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
We're conceding so many points recently with keeping teams low scoring at the start of the season to now. It's polar opposite. So we need more defenders potentially, but I think we got to see what we can get for currency for players. I don't think that holding on to the specific players, who I'm going to mention, so I'm not going to go there. But I think maybe seeing what's out there. I don't know how good the draft is necessarily, so it's going to be hard to judge. But probably looking at current players that are looking for new clubs potentially. That's probably the way to go about it, I guess.
Yeah. Tend to agree.
What do you guys think personally? What we need to top up on?
Just a gun mid and a good backman. Get Barras. I've heard some people say Bailey Smith from the Dogs is a chance. That's multiple people that have hit me up today about that. I don't know if that's just BS, but I have some, semi-reliable people that message me in the trade period, and they're already saying, Bailey Smith from the Dogs is a sneaky chance. So yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of master strokes and speaking of steals, how good was the trade for Jack Steele? He just flourished. Turned into an amazing player that's reliable every week. That's what you need. You need consistent players that you can rely on in a game. I feel like some of the young kids, some of them have done really well that you wouldn't think would do well, and then there's some of them that have been high up in the pecking order that haven't really met the expectations. Like they've been very up and down, and I think going forward, the coaches really need to drill out into the players about consistency.
I'm sure they do. It's still exploration season, or what is Ross labelled it? He's
exploration year or something like that.
Yeah. So I think Ross is he's enjoying that we're in the finals hunt, but that's not just the only focus. I think he's definitely got his eyes on pretty much everything you've mentioned. Whether it's trades, drafts. I know that when we spoke to the president and we asked him, what's the focus in the off season? Is it going to be trades or hit the draft again? And he's like, we'll explore both. So they've got every door is open. Wherever the best player is, we'll be looking at it very, very carefully. So, last year I wasn't that excited about the trade period after all the De Goey stuff, and then he signed and we looked a bit silly. But this period, we've got apparently a lot of money to throw around. We've got some players with currency that are out of contract. So we've got players that we can give away. And then I think we look like, if depending on how the rest of the year goes, if we make finals, players will want to come to St Kilda to play under Ross, to play with the facilities that we've got. And then hopefully be part of, a team that's looking to challenge in the next 2 to 3 years. So, I think we're really well set, for the next 5 years, to be honest. I'm pretty positive. I know Jordan might not be, but I think we've got a lot of the bases covered at the moment.
Yep. Marcus, one last question before you go. Do you think is it finals or bust for you this season? What's your opinion? Because I know every Saints fan will have a different one, but what's your take?
Jake will know how the game's going by about halfway in. I'll be stressing him out by messaging him, being like, "Hey, bloody get such and such off, get him on." Oh, it's terrible. But nah, look, I think just like that, it should be a week by week perspective, because at the stage we're at, there is as much chance we can make finals as the fact that we could miss it. And the worst case scenario would be just missing the 8, finishing 9th and not progressing into the finals. Even if, I hope the club really puts the effort in to try and get to the finals. Even if you don't go far in it, that's better than bust, honestly, because it depends on what the draft currency is for players at the end of the season, because I don't know, for the first couple of picks are really good, but it kind of drops off, and you get some good steals in the draft, I guess. But I hope that we really make a push, and so that players from other clubs do see that we're a decent football team that's consistent. Because we're getting there with Brett Ratton, but I don't know if necessarily sacking him was the answer. But I'm happy we've got Ross Lyon as a coach, and it all looks to be working out. So got to try and be optimistic, I suppose. Hey, boys.
That's it, mate.
Yep, that's the way.
Love it.
I hope I've put that mindset out there, but that's just my thoughts going into every game and during the week, reading every article and being on social media for hours. I could see it all. But also just good work with the group, boys. Good work with all the streams and the effort you guys put in weekly to give us some content, and great insight this year, especially with having members from the football club itself coming in to join you guys. That's big. I don't think you guys have had that in previous years, really. Not like this.
No, definitely not. It's this was the year to push that front, and we're getting in contact with the club more and more, which is really nice. So doing a bit more with them. So hopefully, it's just the start. So hopefully by the end of the year and then into next year, we'll have some big things lined up for sure. But really appreciate you jumping on, mate. Thanks for that.
No worries. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Marcus.
Right.
Catch you, boys. See ya.
See ya.
Always good to have a fan cam. Seemed like a great guy, Marcus.
Yep. Yeah, he knows his stuff. Very passionate, which is what we love.
Well, we hinted a little bit, Jake, about the finals race.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people will say that it's finals or bust. A lot of people will say that it's not. I know that you made a video about it and you've talked about it sporadically throughout the year, but just to refresh and bring it back to the minds of the viewers, is it finals or bust for you this year, Jake?
Mate, it's an interesting one. I think it leans towards being. It's not a bust, but it's a finals or fail, simply because of the draw that we have. Do you know what I mean? It's the draw. We've got the Suns, we've got North, we've got Hawthorn, Carlton, Richmond. 5 in a row, by the way, in Melbourne. I just think from here we have to make finals. From here, we have to make finals. And I do agree with what Marcus said in that even if we don't get far in finals, say we lose the first final, just to have that experience with some of the youngsters that we have, that can add another season of experience in the one game. Playing a final is a big deal, you know? It took Rui a couple of seasons, and I feel like even after that, when we played in 04 in the finals, we just learnt so much. In 05, we were better. So it's a big deal for me to really get there. And I think we deserve to be. We've been in the top 5 pretty much for the entire season. It hurt to miss it from here. What do you reckon?
Probably similar. It's not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's the be all and end all. I'd be absolutely gutted if we didn't make it. You know, sort of similar to a Carlton type situation last year, where you're in the 8 from rounds 1 to 22, and then not in round 23 when it matters. Obviously, this year there's 24 rounds, but you know the point still stands. It is an exploration year at the end of the day, and we've had some comments. You know, saying Bem agrees with Paul in saying that we're ahead of schedule.
Yep.
A bit different to an exploration year, but do you think, Jake, that we're ahead of schedule? I'm not sure where we were supposed to be, I guess, at this point this year.
I mean, it's hard to say whether you're ahead of schedule or not when you actually don't know what the schedule is. And I think that's the beautiful thing is that for so long I've seen our club go, by 2018 we're going to win a flag, by 2022 we're going to be a top 14. You know, they put all these timelines on these things.
Yeah, more 5-year plans than Stalin.
All these 5-year plans, mate. But to be honest, it shortcuts everything because you're looking at the timeline. You're not looking at the steps to get you to that actual destination. And I think now we can just say, okay, we've given Ross, what has he signed on for? 4 years?
Yeah.
I think so. That's the time. That's as close to a timeline as we get, you know? Ross is there for 4 years. Fix as much as you can. Let's turn into a serious and competitive football team on and off the field. And off the field, I think we are already. Big tick there. It's now about on the field. And Bassett said that as well. It's like, we've got all the off the field stuff sorted. This is really about being a really good team now, you know, and getting the players and start winning games and making finals. So I don't think you'd want any other person running a football club, coaching it, if that's the goal, you know, to make finals, to be a successful team. So yeah, I think, those timelines in the past, when I look back on them and read them, I'm like, wow, we actually believed all that stuff. We were like jumping up and down, like, 2018, here we go, you know? Whereas now I think it adds a bit more patience that we just week by week, you know, just chipping away, learning a bit more about the team, more experience in the youngsters, learning more about the senior boys, whether they're capable or not, you know, whether they're going to retire or we can trade them. So I think, I think we're in a good position now.
Yeah. I guess we're used to that for Saints fans being patient. But the other thing, Jake, about 5-year plans is that it's a lot of 5-year plans assume that progression in a footy club is linear.
Exactly.
And we've seen with Melbourne that it's absolutely not linear. You know, I can't remember where they finished in 2017, but 2018 they finished 5th and then made the prelim, lost to eventual premiers West Coast. Missed bottom 4 2019. 10th, I think they were 2020, and then obviously won the flag in 2021. So, you know, to come here and say, we're gonna finish in the top 10 this year. We're gonna finish, you know, in the bottom half of the 8 next year, top 4 the year after, and win the premiership in 2025 or whatever. It doesn't work like that. That's not how footy works, and that's not how life works at all. So
the Dogs, 2016. What have they done since? They've made one grand final and they got smashed in the second half in lockdown. So was it lockdown? Or was it the year before? Well, they were 2019, weren't they? The D's.
So the D's made. Hang on.
Wait, I've lost.
You're talking about the Dogs?
Here. The Dogs won it in 2016, didn't they?
Yeah, and they lost the grand final in 21. Yeah,
in 21. Yeah, so they haven't. Just your point. You know, they didn't go back to back. They didn't even get. What did they do the year after? Did they miss finals or did they make it in 2017?
I believe they missed finals.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
As some of our viewers would know, we tend to reference this website a lot. Jake, I'm not sure if you squiggle at all. I certainly do.
Not yet. I reckon give me the next 3 the final 3 or 4 weeks, depending on our ladder position, I'll be very heavily using that.
Yeah, I know. I'll check it like mid game. I'll see what their updates are. But as of this minute, as you can see on screen, they do have St Kilda just making it into the top 8.
Oh.
12.4 probabilistic wins. It's not quite obviously. You got the 0.4 wins. You can't have 40% of a win. As much as we'd like that, we would have taken. Wouldn't that have been nice, to get 0.4 wins for our effort against Melbourne on Saturday night?
Yeah, it deserved it.
Yeah, but we move on, and regardless, it seems that Adelaide's percentage is going to be quite high. So will Essendon's relatively. Percentage is almost going to act like an extra win, won't it? A good percentage.
Yeah. And we didn't get it against the Eagles, and we faced North and Hawthorn in consecutive games. That's where we've got to make it up. That we can't drop those games at all, but we can't scrape through them. We've got to really just comfortably, even if they're 2 40-point wins or something like that, just get a comfortable win on both fronts. Because what's our percentage? It's 109.3.
I think it's dropped. I think it's 107 now, 107? I believe. I'll just look it up real quick. Yeah, 106.8.
And right now, that's the reason why Essendon. That's the reason why Essendon are above us. The only reason. So you don't want that to be, 8th and 9th, and we're struggling because, you look back on the West Coast game. That's when you would look back on that game and say, bloody hell, that's finals there, not winning by more.
Or it's when we got blown. I would say it's almost when we got blown out by Adelaide, because, that's a twofold effect in that, gives them a hell of a lot of percentage, but also, dramatically reduced ours. I think we lost 10% of that game, but I guess it's later in the season.
It hasn't happened. Like every other loss has been under 30 points since. So that's the outlier. If we're getting done by 50 on 3 or 4 occasions, that's when it affects percentage. But it's more the fact that we don't put teams to the sword when we're on top. That is like Collingwood. If they had that first quarter that we did against Melbourne, they're 4 goals up at quarter time. We were 7 points or whatever down.
I hate the fact that we have to, compare ourselves to Collingwood being the benchmark.
We're not comparing ourselves to Collingwood. We're comparing ourselves to the top team,
Yeah.
They're the benchmark.
But, it's still frustrating that Collingwood is the top team. Yeah. The remaining games, Jake, we've got, Gold Coast at Carrara, North Melbourne, Hawthorn, Carlton, Richmond, Geelong, Brisbane. I think that's 7 games, if my maths serve me correctly. It is. How many wins do you personally foresee in that time frame? Most of them are winnable games.
They're all winnable. I would say, obviously, Brisbane's probably a 25 to 30% max. That's hard at the Gabba. They're very good there. And they're most likely going to be fighting for a top 2, top 3 finish in that game. But in the next 5, like, I want us to... I really do think we can win the next 5 and then go into the Geelong game with a full head of steam. I think we can beat Gold Coast. North Hawthorn, we have to. Carlton's the big one for me. I said that on the potty. Just because it's that sort of game where if they keep their form, by that point, they'll be knocking on the door of the 8 or sneaking in. And depending on our form, they could be the team looking at us going, if we're going to make finals, St Kilda's the only team we can overtake.
I think a lot of teams, unfortunately, are looking at us like that.
For sure, but definitely Carlton, because of their list, because of their expectation, where they're supposed to be, because they're amazing, apparently. That's the big game. Richmond, I think we can get them under the roof. I think at the G in the wet, that just favoured them too much, and that was a hard game. And then the Geelong game becomes very interesting depending on how they go, because they've been very up and down as much as we have in recent times. So, honestly, the next 6 are massive. Go 4-2 or 5-1 in the next 6, and you play finals.
Yep, 5 wins plays finals. Really,
5 wins will lock us in. Yeah,
4 and a bit of luck from other teams. Having their pants pulled down. Essendon beating Adelaide. I'm not sure whether that helped or hindered. We'll see at the end of the season. But yeah, 5 wins definitely gets us in. Gold Coast, I agree with Dale here. I reckon it's a danger game. We'll talk a bit about it later, but, Stewie Dew being sacked, Marcus was right in that it seems that St Kilda, bears the I guess, the short end of the stick when it comes to things like this, doesn't it?
It does. And I saw a post online about it in one of the Facebook groups today, and someone had a really, really good comment that, yeah, we've had all this, but, we almost beat Richmond in Cochin's big game. We beat Sydney in Buddies. We played West Coast and they gave us like everything they could have in that game. Like, it can't be understated. They threw everything. And although they've been very bad this year, they threw everything at us on their home deck, and we were out of form and we still stood tall and got the job done. This is just good character building games. And I know players like Filippo and Owens, they're not going to be looking at the fact that Jew got sacked and think, oh, here we go, woe is me. It's happening to St Kilda again. From a fan perspective, I get it, but in the rooms, the players aren't thinking that. It doesn't affect them. They'll go out there, they'll give it everything. I think people are just worried that it just will lift the other team. It'll galvanize them. But I don't even know is it King? He's the caretaker coach, isn't he?
I've actually got no idea
Stephen King, the former Cat and Saint.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I believe. I don't even know if he's, he hasn't been talked about in any other coaching gigs when they've come up. Does that mean that, maybe he's not an Andrew McQualter? Even McQualter was talked up as being very knowledgeable, like a chance of being a senior coach before Hardwick stood down. I've not heard a word about King. So can he coach?
That's a good sign.
He's coming up against Ross Lyon, so he's going to have to coach pretty well, I think.
Yep, we'll have to bring his A game for sure. I was reading an article on afl.com.au, was talking about new coaches coming in mid-season. I think it was the last 5 years they've only had it seems to be that when new coaches come in, they win, but they've only got a 43% win rate the next game, which, if you think about it, is good considering they're replacing, a coach. They're coming in to coach a team that's struggled. That's obviously the reason why they got rid of the coach.
Yeah.
But it's only 43%. If math serves me correctly, that's less than half. So that's still, a good opportunity for us to win here.
Exactly. And it depends on the playing group too. Like, from what I gathered, the Gold Coast Suns players all loved Stewie Jew. They really enjoyed being coached by him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like, they could go the other way. They could be so dejected and be like, you couldn't even just give them the rest of the year. They could be pissed off about it. We don't know how they're reacting to this whole situation. When we got, it's kind of the opposite to me with when we got rid of Richo, we got Rats in. You could tell the boys were kind of overplaying for Richo, the style of football. It was just draining. It wasn't exciting. And then Ratton came in, and literally in the first game against the Doggies, we're playing fast football, free flowing. We wanted to kick goals. We won our first 2 under Rats, didn't we? We beat the Dogs and we beat Melbourne or Fremantle, one of the 2.
Did we win our first 2 under? I think we did. Yeah, maybe we did.
We definitely beat the Dogs in the first game. And that was some of the most exciting football I'd seen in recent years up until that point. So it could be the opposite with the Suns, because I feel like they all really enjoyed playing under Dew. But I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, guys mentioned that, we win so many games after a coach sacking. It's kind of, I guess, unnerving to see, he sees why people view Gold Coast as a big chance this week. And I think even before this, if we take a look at Squiggles' analysis, who I trust a hell of a lot, they mentioned that if you ever look there, overall, they reckon that Gold Coast is a 60% chance of winning sort of a close margin. And that was before the Stewie Jew news. So it's interesting. I'd like to know now what their model is, whether that takes into account. I'm not sure whether it can take emotions into account, given it's a computer. AI is not that advanced yet, or maybe it is. I'm not sure.
I'm sure the injuries will factor. Missing Kingy is a big one.
Yep.
But then you got to go on recent form, and the last couple of times we've played them, we've beaten them by 20 odd points and then 10 goals. Last, was it in round 3 or 4 or 5, whenever we played them?
Yeah, round 4. Yeah, but we didn't even have Max King then. So yeah, and Jack Steele as well. We were missing him. So
yeah,
I think we're a bigger chance than maybe the models give us credit for. But yeah, do we want to talk a bit about the injuries? I guess there's been a bit of an injury shock, I guess, today with our man Jack Billings.
Yeah, what was that? His finger? that's something that's going to rule him out. I didn't see the exact detail,
Yep,
but I
I
believe it's his
believe.
thumb or something, is it?
Yep, so I've got on screen now that it's his thumb.
Yeah.
Not too sure what the issue exactly is. If someone in the comments wants to let us know, but just another setback. He was out for what 10 weeks or something. What was his injury beforehand? If you remember, Jake?
Oh, that's a very good. There was a couple. I mean, it wasn't a hammy, was it? It was Achilles, maybe. I don't know. There was a couple because he was injured and then he played a few games at Sandy and then he pulled up sore and he missed a few, I think. Then he played a game at Sandy and then we brought him in. But this was sustained in the game, wasn't it? I believe on Saturday night. I don't know exactly when.
You would imagine towards later in the game if
back
it wasn't.
into the game.
Yeah.
Unless he played through it, yeah. It's just our luck, though, isn't it? We get players back. We got Jonesy back, and he was great. But I hate getting players back and then losing players. But the good thing is we are going to lose Billings, King, Cordy, Seb, but we are going to retain Battle, Hill, Higgins at the very least, and they're all very good players for us. Very important players.
Are they definitely coming in? Because I've read that they were a test this week.
I'm pretty confident they'll play. I think it's just a test. Just get through training and you should be in. We spoke to two of the boys. I reckon fractured his thumb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Battle and Hill seem pretty optimistic that they'd be back in this week, at least from when we spoke to them before the game. And then Higo, I think, is a big one.
Be interesting to see if Higo doesn't come back. Jules is asking if Jack Paris is possibly getting a game this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's been tearing. He's one of those players that his numbers aren't huge, but every press conference, Ross Lyon just sneaks him in and talks about him, talks him up. And I feel like Ross is really wanting to find that chance to let him loose. He's very quick, great pressure forward, very, very clean around goals, good for a goal at Sandy. It brings something different to our lineup, you know? And I think we need a bit more speed in the team. We saw what Zachy Jones brought. Just made our midfield look a bit more lively, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought Zach Jones was probably the player of the first half across both Melbourne and St Kilda, the way he was, fearless and jumping, sort of onto the ball, but didn't give away a free kick in that regard. Obviously, you can't dive onto the ball. But yeah, just showed a lot of passion, a lot of heart, was really, really played for the emblem, I guess. Well, maybe played for the emblem, maybe playing to keep his spot in the team after, being out for so long. But yeah, I personally thought he was the player of the half in the first, 40 minutes of the game. Let's talk about the VFL. We know that Sandy unfortunately lost to the Casey Demons in a similar scoreline to us, 8-11-59 to 13-15-93. Jack Hayes made his return through the VFL, which was good to see. 14 disposals, 6 tackles, 4 marks, and Hunter Clark also
keep forgetting. Back. So he's a chance too this week. So that's 4 that I've got that are a chance to come back because he's not even on the injury list. Obviously, I'm so used to seeing him on there. And quietly, Nick Caulfield is a test as well. That's great signs.
Oh, I didn't even know about Nick Caulfield, but no, that's good.
So he's a chance to play at Sandy, I'd imagine.
So really if you're looking at who comes out from this week, Jake, you've got Max King, Zane Cordy, definitely, Jack Billings, and Seb Ross. So that's 4 guys you need to replace. Who do you think are the like-for-like replacements?
That's a tricky one. I mean, you've got Hunter Clark and Bytel. Bytel had another ripper game at Sandy on the weekend. So you'd say one of them can come in for Seb. I think, or both really. Depends on who the sub is too. Like who was the sub in this game? It was Burnsy, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ryan Burns.
Yeah. So and you'd say that his spot in the starting 22 is locked based on his game because he played probably his best game for the club. So he gets put in. So you've got the sub as well.
Do you put Cooper Sharman back as the sub?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like if Jack Hayes isn't fit, you probably have to keep Sharman in the forward line, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think Jack Hayes is quite ready to come back from what I've heard. But yeah, I thought Sharman was all right. Didn't set the world on fire. Probably played Not as good as he did for the past couple of weeks, where I thought he was a bit impressive. But yeah, I would still keep him in the 23. At
Campbell,
least as a sub. Campbell,
because that allows Rowe to go forward more. But and after playing Gawn and Grundy and dominating them, does he need a bit of a chop out now? And I agree, Mitch Owens is more dangerous in the forward line.
I
You want him
know,
to
and
kick and
I've
goals.
clearly lost the argument that I had with Max a couple of weeks ago over whether Mitch Owen should play in the ruck, and I've gone and changed my mind on that myself. Probably shouldn't be playing there, but to me, bringing in Tom Campbell almost seems like waving the white flag when it comes to entering our forward 50, because if we plot Marshall in there, yes, I understand you should give him a rest and whatever. Like, I understand the benefits of that, and was a big advocate for Tom Campbell to come back in, but it just seems like we haven't got. If we bring in Tom Campbell just to put him or Marshall forward, we're giving up on being effective inside 50 without having a really tall, a key marking figure inside 50. To me, that's just personally what I think. Everyone might be a little bit different. I'd like to see us go back to that unpredictability. Looking for guys on the lead more so, like when Gresham and Butler and Higgins were really running at the footy more so in the first 4 rounds of the year. Jules disagrees with me. For the love of whatever you believe in, I believe in the St Kilda Football Club. Personally, that's my religion. But yeah, bringing some height into this side. But yeah, do you think Tom Campbell should come in, Jake?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword there, I reckon. Like, you get height, you get Rowe in the forward line, but you run the risk of getting smashed in the middle because they've got Jared Witts, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's a very capable ruckman around the ground as well. So it's fitness-wise for Campbell. But it's also, you go back to Ross and I guess, selection integrity and playing players that are in form, fit and in form. And Campbell is fit and he's been dominating all season. He's getting 20 disposals and 40 hitouts a week, most weeks, and kicking a goal too. If there's ever a game to try it, I think it's this weekend. But you run the risk of, robbing Peter to pay Paul in a way.
I feel like we say that every week a bit. This is the game for Tom Campbell to come back into. But
yeah, and Ross is against it. He's been asked many times, and he's like, nah, he doesn't like 2 rucks. I don't think he really likes having a ruck. I think even in the good St Kilda days, it was obviously Michael Gardner, but before that, we didn't have a top tier ruckman.
Yeah. Some people have suggested that Tom Campbell maybe ran over Ross's cat or something during the season to ensure he didn't get picked. But if we're talking selection integrity, one guy who's really stood out to me in the VFL, Jack Bytel, 30 disposals and 10 tackles.
Yeah,
I would say he's probably the ideal Seb Ross replacement. If not him, then probably Hunter Clark, like you said as well, could come back in. But you reckon that Hill would be a lock to come back in, and so too Josh Battle. So probably Brad Hill for Jack Billings would be the sort of like-for-like replacement. Josh Battle in for Zane Cordy, who quietly I thought had a really good first quarter. It was unfortunate what happened to him. The Max King issue, though, who's the replacement for him? There's no real like-for-like with a 200-plus centimetre key forward like that.
And that's the thing is, like, when we started the season and we didn't have him, we didn't try to find the next Max King or try to replace him. We just worked around it. We worked around it by having multiple avenues. Caminiti, Owens, the Smalls, Mason Wood as well. His goal kicking's probably dried up the last month and a half, maybe even a bit longer, but he started the year on fire, going at a goal a game. And you need those sort of players, Gresh to kick a goal, Wood to kick a goal, Steele, get forward as many times as he can. Steele's at his best when he's hitting the scoreboard for me. And it was good to see it on the weekend, but get there more, push forward more, make their mids accountable. And that's how you cover someone like King. Everyone goes up a notch in front of goal, and you got to kick straight. Just kick straight.
And Steele, he doesn't fix that problem single-handedly, but he certainly makes it no worse, given he's a great kick for goal. Yeah. The Cam de Raven brings up an interesting point, and I remember sitting at the Gold Coast game on Easter Saturday, and my great aunt was sitting next to me and heard on the radio that Witts was out, and she said, "Oh goodness, like thank God." She was worried about him, and definitely right in because we absolutely won the clearance battle. Witts has been in good form recently, and he's a good ruckman overall, very consistent. Do you think then that we bring in someone like Bytel, who's a hard body in terms of winning clearances? Then do we really focus on winning the clearance count, or is it maybe we focus on something else?
I mean, we actually broke even in clearances against the Ds, and I rarely do you see that. The Ds tend to dominate that stat. That is their stat, clearances. Whatever they do after it, it's up to them. But generally, you back them to win that count with their rucks, with their mids. So the fact that we broke even with the midfield we had Windy through there for a bit, but then he went to half back. He's one that can get thrown in more in there as part of the rotation. Sinclair, obviously, Gresh, his form was better, so he'll go through there as well, and he always plays well against the Suns. Steele found form. Crouch was great again, and you've got Zach Jones. I think people will forget that we've got him back and fit. That's 6 there, not to mention whether we get Bytel and Clark to give them a run through there. So I think we've got enough there. I think Bytel would be stiff. I'd love to see him as maybe the sub. I think Burns and Sharman probably deserve a spot in the starting team, but I'd love to see Bytel fly over with the team. I think he deserves it. But if he doesn't pull up, we've got the players. I want to throw this one at you. Mason Wood, do you think he'd be good in the guts every so often? He's got the size. He's got that physicality, a bit of speed about him. What do you think he's too valuable?
But I'm not sure that he has that. I'd like to see his stats. I'm not sure if my memory serves me right that he has that clearance with ball winning in the middle, in the guts in the middle. And I would really like his gut running. He works really well with Ryan Burns on opposite sides of the wing. That sort of versatility. I'm not saying never throw Mason Wood in the guts, but I would prefer to keep him out on the wing for now. But Jake, I'll throw this one back to you.
Yeah.
Marcus Windhager is someone who I've watched on the sidelines the past couple of weeks and been a little bit disappointed by. He's unquestionably going to be a star of the future and is a staple of our team going forward. But I don't think he's been performing in the last couple of weeks, and it's probably a lot of the hate from St Kilda fans has gone to guys like Dougal Howard or Jade Gresham, the obvious, the guys who Saints fans loves to just, say, oh, they played terribly or whatever. But Marcus has sort of flown under the radar. What do you think of his game over the past couple of weeks?
I really, really enjoyed watching him on Saturday night. I watched him really closely, and I loved that switch to put him at halfback to just help him find the ball a little bit more. Similar to what we did with, obviously Naz is killing it in that position already, but that's kind of his position. We did that with Hunter Clark as well, people would know, to find the ball, get some form, and I think that worked a treat. And it helps him to see the game as well. When you're in the middle, there's so much happening around you. You've got to really dictate the game. And I think he's not quite at that level yet. But for him to get the footy at halfback and to have options already, I think that'll give him some confidence. And there was a really nice passage of play, I think, in the last quarter where the ball was a 50-50 ball. And it was either he had to go or they were going to get through and kick a goal. And he won the ball, and then accelerated away from the contest. This is deep into the last quarter, so he would have been gassed. And then he hit a target, like pinpoint 15-meter dart right on the boundary line, borderline out on the full, but just hit it perfectly. And I was like, this guy's all right. He backed himself there. He really believes, he wasn't hesitant. Like, that's what we pin players on, like Dukes, not on the weekend, but in previous games where he gets it and he's thinking of 50 different options in his head of what to do. You got to pick one and you got to go at it 150%. And Windy did that. So I was like, he looks confident now. In the middle, it's hard to gauge. He's very much a contested ball winner and his hands are very quick, but he's got more to his bow. He's a good player overall, field kick, and he's got a good tank. So I don't mind that switch off halfback. I don't know if we'll persist with it, but I thought Ross, did a good job of doing that and throwing in there.
Well, speaking of, you're unsure of whether we'll stick there in halfback. Do you reckon Bem's asking if we should put him on Noah Anderson, who's been in superb form recently?
Oh yeah, that's a big matchup. I don't know. It depends. Noah Anderson, he plays in the guts, doesn't he? Yeah. I mean, I think that's Windy's go-to at the moment is tagging. Like last year, he tagged Tim Kelly against West Coast. Tim Kelly had what, 5 possessions? And
Yeah,
Windy
4
had 18 or
possessions.
19 of his own
Yeah.
in a stellar performance. He's capable, so I'm all for it. And we know Ross loves a tagger. Clint Jones, loved him. Tags, put him on Gary Ablett and beats him, So I think Anderson, he did beat us. Scott just mentioned there, he cut us up last time, absolutely. So, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I'd like to get your opinion on Wayne's comment here.
I knew
He'd
you were
like
going to
you
put
to
that
be
one
coach
up.
for 1 week. Would you accept that, being Ross's shoes? Or it could be a lot of pressure on you.
Oh, that'd be a tough gig. It'd be a tough gig. I'd love to sit in the box though, just for one day. If you had to pay a bit of money to sit in the coach's box for a game, I'd bloody do it. It'd be a very cool experience.
Yeah. Is that where the Saints TV Plus money is going towards you sitting in the box for a game?
Nah. That's going to more content and all the fun stuff that the viewers hopefully get to enjoy, mate. That's no jets or any Ferraris,
Yeah, Jake's actually he's got a Lamborghini and you can hear it revving in the background. He's just bought one.
Speaking of, just a quick plug for anyone on YouTube. We got to talk about this bad boy.
Of course, yeah.
So we're only about 20 subs off 7,000 Saners. So subscribe because I'm going to give this away. So I'd love to do it by the end of the week. I don't think that was on the run sheet, but I thought I'd just chuck it in there. Sitting right here next to me, the old Rui, signed Rui.
Yep, now fair enough.
From July 2009. So not bad. That's when he was at the peak of his powers. So get on that.
Yep, hit that subscribe spot in Saners and could win a piece of Rui memorabilia. Beth reckons Jake for PM. It seems you're quite a popular man here, Jakey.
Yeah. PM, I don't know about that. I'm not a big political guy, so I reckon you'd be more suited to that, Jordan. I reckon you've got that politician sort of vibe about you. What do you reckon?
Me? I'm not too sure about that. You think I lack integrity or something? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just moving on.
I think we've got to be carried away there. My first act if I was Prime Minister was to give St Kilda a 20-point head start on the AFL season. In every single game.
Yeah.
That's something. Well, that was a bad example, but something St Kilda related to, ensure we finally get that second elusive premiership. Perhaps this is a better one. Rowan Marshall for PM.
Yeah.
And look at his smile. Yep. Was interesting to see him a bit frustrated. I'm not sure if this was talked about in the podcast, but a bit disappointed after the game. Wouldn't read too much into that, but I thought it was good, to see his clearly, caring about the game and caring about the outcome.
Was that Rowe?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, off the back of the game that he put in, you could tell that deep down, I think he really believed that we could have and should have won that game. You don't play a game like he did if you don't think we're really a chance of winning, and he did. He couldn't have done any more. No ruckman could do much more than what he did against Gawn and Grundy.
Yeah, spot on.
So I think that would have added to his frustration is that look at what we've all put in, not just him, like his other teammates that probably didn't get the plaudits with the stats or whatever. They all still put in a heap of work on that night, and he would have seen that and gone, like, damn, that's an opportunity missed. Like we could have. It's those sort of games where if you turn that into a win, that's like a defining win,
Yep, that's a win that other clubs look at and go, "Hang on, there's something in these Saints." Yeah,
that's it.
We know that Gold Coast are sort of a mixed bag. Recently they've lost by 33 to Port Adelaide, lost by 71 at home, 78, sorry, to Collingwood at home, beat Hawthorn by 67 at home, and lost to the Blues by almost 60 points away from home. Jake, do you have a score prediction for this game?
I'll go Saints. I've got a good feeling about it being Saints 84, Suns 67. I reckon
Okay, keeping it close.
Yeah, I reckon we'll be at that margin for most of the day. I think we'll be fairly comfortable, but just hold them off.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit of a return to the Saints Gold Coast semi-rivalry.
No.
I don't know if it's you call it a rivalry when we won, all those close games. It's sort of like a rivalry between a windshield and a bug. But I've gone with St Kilda to win by 5 points. Saints 94 defeating the Suns 89. I think that'd be an interesting game. You never. Are you a fan, Jake? Would you rather have a close game and a win, or a big blowout win, or maybe it depends on the team and the situation?
Nah, I'll always take a big blowout win because they don't happen often, mate. As a Sainer, and I can't imagine the Bentley Social in the final minute of a game against the Suns where we're 5 points up, and all sorts of things can go wrong. So I'm already predicting this situation that a lot of people would be in watching that game, the stress that we'd be going through. Nah, can't take it.
Yep, just a reminder to get down to the Bentley Social. Game starts at 2:10, but make sure to get down there 1 o'clock or even earlier. Get a good feed in. Great food, great drinks. Is the Saints TV Lager Special still up and about?
I believe so. I'll double check, but I'm pretty confident we'll be there. And if not, there's plenty of other really good beers on tap as well for the beer drinkers out there.
Just a couple of predictions here. Wayne loves a good blowout. Mark reckons the Stainers by 70 points. Bem reckons St Kilda by 24 and Brad Crouch to have a big game. Dale reckons St Kilda by 16.
That's a low scoring
that
one.
would be, you'd almost turn the projector off at the Bentley Social if that was the the outcome. Anastasia brings up a good point. Who do you reckon gets the Brownlow votes from the game on Saturday night? You would think, given it's a midfielder's award, three would have to go to Tristan Petrarca just because that's
he kicked 4, and he kicked 4 straight in a low scoring
and they did win.
game. And they did win. So I reckon Petrarca gets 3, Rowe gets 2, and then May gets probably 1.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Steele a bit stiff to miss out. You reckon he probably would have got 1 if the Saints got up?
Yeah. I think May definitely gets 1 though. I think they'll throw 1 in there. Yep.
Disappointing, it seems that opposition's best backmen always have a big game against the Saints. Sicily, Harris Andrews, Darcy Moore, and Stephen May. Couple more predictions we'll go through. Chris reckons the Saints by 20. Mm-hmm. Beth, Saints by 5 goals. Sorry, can't do maths. Happy days. Guy reckons
41.
Saints by 41. Daryl's a little bit less optimistic. He's questioning the legitimacy of some of the predictions made by others.
No need to attack. It's just predictions. It's true.
Tony reckons great tacos at the Bentley Social. So yet another reason to get down to the Bentley Social.
Yeah, and we might even have prizes as well for best dress. So rock your best colours.
And it's 10% off food and drinks, isn't it, in Saints colours?
Yeah. That's the other benefit of wearing your colours. Get a bit of a discount.
Yeah. And hopefully no Gold Coast fans there.
Security's well aware. He knows. There's not going to be any, though.
Are there any just in general?
Nah.
That's a bit mean. Anastasia reckons Steele to go back-to-back and have a solid game and the Saints to win by about 4 goals.
Good call. Yeah.
Who's the player you reckon, Jake, that'll have a big game?
Jeez. I reckon Zachy Jones is going to have over 30 possessions and just continue that return form. I can see him being a real sort of difference in this game with that speed and tenacity in the middle. I can see him having a 32 and 1 goal type game, I reckon.
Well, the 2 players I was thinking of mentioning, Jack Steele and Zach Jones, seem to have already been taken. But I'm gonna go Cal Wilkie. I think, not sure if he's the one to go to Ben King. Do you reckon he'll be, or do you reckon it'll be Dukes?
I think have they got Casbolt? He's still playing there, isn't he?
Yeah, so you'd imagine that Wilkie and Dukes would go to both of them. Just which
Or
one we're
Battle.
pretty unsure
Battle's
of.
big enough
Oh,
for
yeah,
Kurt
true.
Bolt.
Battle as
I think
well.
he's probably more physical and less mobile, which allows Dukes and Wilkie to probably focus on Ben King. I don't know if they've got another third. Is it what's his name? The Richmond guy.
Brandon Ellis or Mabby or Chol.
Yeah, Chol. Are they playing him up forward now, or I haven't
I'm
watched
not
much
sure
of them, to be honest.
is he getting a game?
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard much from him. I'm going to take a look at. I'm going to take a look at the who Gold Coast put out in their last match. Gives a tick. Let's see the lineups. So they've got Ben Ainsworth, Ben King, and Levi Casbolt up forward.
Yeah.
Jared Witts in the ruck. Yeah, can't see. It doesn't seem that Charles been getting a game.
Lukosius, though, he's a big one to worry about. Damn, he's a good player.
Yeah, I'm really worried about Ben King, to be honest. Only had the one disposal in the first half before getting subbed out. He is a phenomenal player and not someone you associate with one disposal games. So I really reckon he's gonna, and with no Max, I reckon it's his chance to show he's the. Well, he might think he's the better King twin. We might have something to say about that, but yeah, I reckon he'll have a big game. So whichever one of Wilkie or Dukes is matched up with him, I reckon that's who's due for a big game, or at least they've got a big role to play.
Yeah, and I mean it starts in the middle too. So the best way to stop players like Ben King winning the game off their own boot is to just stop the supply. So the mids have to be on. Just make sure that they don't get the ball to them, and if they do, it's rushed. It's a hack kick, and that's how Battle and Wilkie can have those those intercept marks and set up that rebound.
Yep. And just before we wrap up tonight, Jake, what's the one word for how you're feeling for Saturday?
Oh man, one word. Weary. Very weary about this game.
Interesting. You're a bit tired going into.
Hey.
You're a bit tired going into the game.
No, just weary. Like I'm weary that they're a risky sort of, opposition. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Weary,
gotcha.
Yeah. What's yours?
I'm going to say apprehensive is the word I've got written down. Or cautious, one of those. Yeah, a little bit tense going into this game. Not sure. Only increased by the fact that the Stewie Jew was, sacked. I know that you're ever the optimist and think that, it might not have a big impact as I might, think, but in the back of my mind, you always got that glass half empty, traditional Saints fan sort of thinking in that, what if. So hopefully not. Beth also reckons wary. Chris is feeling flat. Mark is feeling something exhilarated.
That's it, Mark.
Yeah, Jules is nervous.
I think everyone's a bit nervous.
Anastasia is pooping out bricks. Interesting question from Dale. Is Ben Long going to play?
I don't think so. He played last time we played them and didn't do a whole lot. I think he's out of the team completely at the moment, so I don't think he'd be in unless he's injured. I'm not too sure. Oh no, he was omitted last week, so I doubt he returns unless his form's good enough. But yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. The only player that Gold Coast have on their injury list that I can see is Joel Jeffrey, who's out for the foot injury for 4 weeks. So looks like maybe Benny's a bit out of form. It would be interesting to see if they bring him in. I'm sure he's got some, a bit of passion against his old team in St Kilda. Didn't have that great a game in round 4, but, maybe he wants to get his revenge because remembering that his last 2-3 games of last year were pretty good. I think he got the 3 Brownlow, at least 2 Brownlow votes.
Yeah.
Against the Swannies, or was it Dan Hannanbury got the 3? Yep. Beth's feeling tentative, and Guy, just to wrap it up there, is feeling monumentous.
That's a good one.
Big word.
That's a big word.
All right. Well, we might just wrap it up there, Saners. Thank you all for watching. Jake, I hope you've enjoyed, the opportunity to get on a Tuesday night, not your sort of night. You're more of a Monday during the day and the Monday podcast sort of guy.
Yeah, this was fun. Yeah, I really appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me on the show, and
no worries.
The Saints watching as well. The comments and their passion. It's awesome to see. So yeah, good work.
Well, you're the godfather of the channel. You're the one who facilitated setting up this show from the very beginning. So it's almost full circle to have you on. But thank you. We appreciate you filling in for Max, who's having a good Aperol, living life on the beach in Fiji at the moment. I'm sure.
No doubt he's watching. No doubt he's watching.
Yeah. Well, maybe, I don't know if he's probably got better things to do on his holiday. But if he is watching, hi Max, and it looks like maybe you're a permanent replacement for him. Who knows? Thanks, Jake. As always, thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night and have a great week.
See you guys.
See you guys next time.